RevOpsAF, the only podcast for people who are RevOpsAF and want to learn all about things that are RevOps AF.
Our goal is to give the revenue operations community, that includes marketing, sales, and CS, for any of you not paying attention, the skills needed to accelerate their careers. Hello and welcome to RevOps AF, the podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Camela Thompson, and today I am joined by Andreas Drakos. Andreas, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, everyone. Very nice to be here today. I'm Andreas. I'm a RevOps professional. I'm based in Greece, in Athens, and I'm leading the revenue operations department at Superside, which is a creative as a service company. I am owning a team of 8 revenue operations professionals.
And that's fantastic because when we first met to talk about topics for your speaking session at Berlin, we were talking about how there's not a lot of material out there on how to scale from one to more, and you've done it. So I would love to talk a little bit about what kind of pillars you really wanted to incorporate on your team, or maybe we just start with what was the kind of content you were looking for, and what do you think's missing?
If missing a lot of things, and thank you for raising that. If you go out and, first of all, if you see any statistics about the revenue operations departments, usually vast majority of RevOps teams are in the scale of 1 to 5, maybe people. And that makes a little bit of sense. Usually RevOps teams right now are in the SaaS business. Usually the SaaS companies are companies of 2 to 500 people. So it makes sense that this is, in vast majority of the company, the size of the teams. And this is why the RevOps department and all the RevOps professionals that I know, like all of them are like the Swiss Army, the one man doing everything. And everybody, any account executive, any CSM will say, oh, I have a RevOps guy that does everything. Like, let's ask RevOps for anything that you may figure out. And that's a little bit true, because when you're in a smaller company, you have these people that they will do everything. They're multitasking. They will manage marketing operation. They will manage sales operation. They will manage CS operation. They will manage deal room. They will manage enablement. They will do everything. So my problem became when I was in a happy position where my company was growing. I had to grow the revenue operations department. And then suddenly from this leader leading 2 people where we were managing everything and we were the specialist on everything, I now have to manage a team of 8 people where from one side, I need to specialize them and start creating specialization. I no longer can be the single point of communication for everything. And how do we structure the communication with the different teams without breaking down the revenue operations back to marketing operations, sales operations, CS operations, which is the reason why RevOps was created in the beginning. And from the other hand, the people management perspective. So how do you build a department where you create career paths for your people? You're responsible for the growth. You're responsible of what they will do in the future. And if you are a good manager, you want to make sure that your team is succeeding and your team will grow, regardless if they're going to grow inside the company or in the future steps that they're going to be doing. So how do you manage all these things? And how do you explain that in order for them to be motivated and keep working with you? So I think there are those 2 challenges happening at the same time, which I couldn't find any resources, to tell you the truth. I couldn't find anybody who has done it and who has shared his experience. And I was trying to talk with people around this. I couldn't find a lot of good guidance on how to do it. So in the end, I had just to try and fail and try and fail and try maybe do something better on the third time.
It's a feeling I know well. I like a lot of your points, though. And studies show, particularly in the US, because we're such an individualistic culture, we really underestimate how much impact we can have as an individual. So I notice not a lot of people stepping into the role right away as a new manager of thinking, I get to decide what my team looks like. And that means, like what you said, you get to figure out the job descriptions and build a sustainable role, even if you didn't start with one. When you said one person doing all of the things across all the departments, I cringed because I burned out pretty epically a couple of times. just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do all of the things. And that's too big of a job for one person. If we could talk a little bit about the pillars that you wanted on your team. I hear that revenue operations should support the go-to-market team, but to you, how is that broken into specialist?
So first of all, I do believe that it's not in one guide that, follow this guide and you're going to succeed. And the reason that I don't believe it is because each company is different. We have a lot of fights in LinkedIn and Slack messages where should the RevOps report to? Each company is different. You might have a CRO who's the RevOps reporting there. You might have a CFO where RevOps reporting there. You might have a RevOps department who's responsible for enablement. You might have a RevOps department who's responsible for build this. It's in each company, its case, it's a different case. So we need to study it like that. So what I tried to do and start with my team and starting to create a little bit of future-proof designs, I started to segment the work that we are doing, and I created these 4 pillars, these 4 main elements of work that we're doing in order to create like a little bit of job families, let's call it, job structures, in order to be able to say, okay, these guys are doing something, these guys are doing something else. Then for me, these 4 categories apply regardless of how you structure your revenue operations department and what you include and what's the mandate of the RevOps department. These 4 structures are, first of all, it's your systems team, which usually means your CRM admins or admins, or like, is it Salesforce, HubSpot, whatever kind of CRM you're using, or you might have more systems than one. So these are the kind of people that will manage the systems, will manage the integrations of the systems, we manage the data flow between the systems. So these are not like people that quite understand what the sales process is, but they understand how the systems integrate between them and how the go-to-market data need to flow between the different systems. So for me, this is a one job family by itself, one department by itself, which I call it systems. And if you want, like, for example, as you scale a company and as you become more enterprise company, this is where, for example, security elements come into place, SSO setup, and this kind of things, of course, with the support of the rest of the company, but this is the team that's going to set up these kind of things. So for me, I set them aside. I say, okay, these are the systems of the revenue operations department, and this is what they are doing. The second pillar, which is the essence, let's call it, of RevOps, it's the operations teams. Operations teams work closely with the managers, work closely with the leadership. They are the people who design how the reps or how the prospects will experience your go-to-market systems. So they are the teams that will set up your inbound flow, your outbound process. They will do territory planning. They will do ABM and support the ABM team. They will do all the marketing operations teams. So these are the core operation department, the core operation team. They handle all these daily tasks. For me, this is also the team that needs to handle a bunch of requests from all the sales reps and all the people. These are your first line of support. And again, because I also want to create a career path here, like the more you go to enterprise roles, this is where project management starts becoming a thing. This is where you need to start thinking about sprints, about a Kanban, about way to handle your inbound support requests, way to handle your schedule jobs and schedule work, etc. So this is why how you evolve in that domain. And this is like the core of the RevOps thing. Again, in smaller companies, that will be the same person, most probably, but in larger companies, you will need to split it up. The third thing is that, and personally, I believe that it is included in the RevOps department, is the enablement. And enablement can have multiple ways of how you do enablement. There is the enablement perspective of how do I train my reps in order to use the tools, in order to follow my processes that I have defined, in order to do the hygiene that I wanted to do. Or if you want, like, if we go to more senior enablement things, what are the sales processes that we should be following, like MEDPIC, BANT, BAPT, I don't know the acronyms that are out there. There are many acronyms. So let's put them all together. Or even if you want, how do we do product positioning, which in more senior revenue enablement teams, that will be part of their role. So enablement is a completely different thing. So for example, if you try to have a call with 10 revenue operations professionals and you have 2 systems, 2 operations, and 2 enablement, you will not get anywhere because they cannot understand what a sprint is. They cannot understand the API calls. They cannot understand any of these things. So that's my third type of category. And my fourth type of category is the person sitting between revenue operations and sitting between data team. And that's the brains, that's the strategy, that's the business analytics, monitoring all the KPIs, monitoring performance, monitoring and providing guidance to the leadership of what we should be changing in our go-to-market to increase our efficiency, to increase our results. So again, 4 different pillars, 4 different teams. Each one has individual characteristics. Each one may understand the work of another team a little bit, but as a job family, they're completely different people, completely different growth plans, and completely different way of how they are organizing their work on a week-by-week basis.
Which brings us to the next topic, which is how do we get all of these people to feel like a cohesive team when they're functioning pretty differently? Before we go there, I structure my team somewhat similarly. So I have analysts, system specialists, the project piece, and enablement. I think there's one more piece in there that I'm spacing on, but I found I can get the analyst, systems, and project people to work on a kind of similar sprint schedule. And I want the analysts and the admin and the business experts to work really closely together because I feel like the whole point of having a system, whether we like to admit it or not, it's not a selling tool. It's really not. It's more a repository for all the information we need to make decisions as a business. So how do we keep the users happy enough and the system streamlined enough that they want to use it while still getting the information we need? And the more I can have those teams work together on what do the analysts need and what do the admins need to kind of balance that out, the better. But when you bring enablement into it, if you have true, fully scaled enablement, they're not just thinking of how do I train them to use the systems. They're thinking of sales methodology, and maybe you're training customer success, and maybe you're training or doing documentation for end customers, which I've done before in enablement. How do you keep them all talking together and working together?
I don't know if I have succeeded on that, or maybe I failed a lot today. I definitely have tried things that have failed in the past, and I don't know if today I can say that I'm doing this very successful. It's a huge challenge, and I think it's a huge challenge because if I try the project management, all these departments work in a very different time period and very different perspective. For example, your system teams will work in a sprint. They can easily plan ahead. They're a product team. They can easily plan ahead. They can say, this week we're going to work on this, next sprint we're going to work on the other thing, etc. Your operation team, whatever they do, they will be bombarded by a bazillion requests that will come in throughout the week. The enablement team for me also works on I think the project management of the enablement team is a training calendar. That's what they are responsible of. That's what they should be looking at. So it's completely different from how the other people work because now they don't have a sprint. They don't have inbound requests to respond. They have a training calendar that they need to adhere. And that training calendar can be in multiple levels as well. So the challenge is like, how do you combine all of them and how do you make sure? By the way, I have tried in the past to make them all work on sprints, completely failed. I have tried them to just work on a Kanban inbound flow, completely failed. So what we are doing now is that we decided that, okay, so we are keeping the systems and the operations, which usually are sitting tighter together to work on a sprint model and have a weekly call where they decide what they're going to be doing. Enablement, on the other hand, is optional to participate in the call. We're not going to tell them not to, but usually it's not obliged. And we have the same way that we have this sprint call every Monday with the systems and the operations team, the same way we have a management call with the enablement team, where the operation team is invited, because the operation team is the team that will support the reps on everything that they are going to be doing, etc. Or we might have the data analyst to join, the business analyst to join in order to give insights. So that's a completely different structure of how they operate. And we are trying to split it out again, trying to follow different methodologies where you create a transparent method, like everybody are invited, but you're not obliged to join in order to tackle. And of course, invitations whenever needed in order to do that. I don't know if this mode of operating is the correct one. It seems to be working for the past 4 to 5 months. So I'm keeping it for the moment until I find a different way to do it.
Yeah. And I've tried similar things. And finally, we landed on a bi-weekly full team meeting. So every other week we meet, go over the progress of the company, talk about overall company strategy and how we're progressing against that, and then celebrate wins on the team. So just talk about what are the major things you've accomplished lately. And then each team has its own breakout. So the analysts, maybe they have sprints and they have daily stand-ups in particular, all that good stuff. So
but I will have to tell you that what I'm trying to do as well, because I'm this kind of a manager, at least I believe so, is that my full team meeting that happens every Friday, it's not a work-related meeting. It's just a release and celebrate the wins or celebrate whatever anybody is doing this week. We are in a fully remote environment, so having this kind of chill out sessions once per week really helps. So this is where basically we are making sure that we are all happy. We are not frustrated. No work-related things on that meeting. And we do a quarterly review of strategy, basically, of reviewing our, I call it vision sessions, where we go in, everybody will tell what they are envisioning of what changes that they need to do over the next 6 months. And then I'm also proposing a bunch of different changes that I know from leadership that we want to do, just because I do believe that individuals work better when they have a knowledge of the pipeline, knowledge of what is coming, and they have a vision about how they would like to do things in the future.
So let's maybe talk a little bit about how you coach the different team members to think about overall strategy, because that can be difficult when you have people in very different roles. So would love to hear, for example, maybe enablement and an analyst.
Yeah, completely different challenges there. I think I will start with the enablement, because I think this is a kind of easier way to coach them, because there is a ton of material about enablement out there. So usually I would say, let's search about something. Let's go out. Let's read benchmarks. Let's read about this. Let's do a research about the other thing. Let's try to be on top of what is happening now in the market. So for me, coaching on the enablement side is always making sure that they are upskilling themselves in order to gain from that upskilling as a company as well, and try to do things. While on the analyst side, this is not that common. On the analyst side, we are looking at benchmarks that are being published from time to time. Like whenever we find something, we will share with the rest. Oh, look what I did here, what I did there, in order to make sure that I benchmark our KPIs versus other people, or oh, they now have a new KPI that they want to do. Maybe we should do that. But I think on the analyst side, a very important thing that is usually unseen, how do you communicate with leadership? Analysts usually will have direct line of communication with C-levels, bypassing me sometimes, because again, we are in a fully remote environment. Slack is our goal. So making sure of I think a main upskilling part is how can this analyst go back to a meeting with all the C-levels and present data and present analysis and present strategy. So it's more on that factor that I usually try to focus my growth plan on that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough because I don't know an analyst that likes spending time on data management or data hygiene. I know a lot of analysts that like to build really cool stuff, but they don't always factor in whether or not their end users can make heads or tails of it. So coaching them on how to take data and translate it in a way that's meaningful for the rest of the business,
Yeah, like
that's the
I
magic.
think that goes to everybody. Like, we have created so many reports, like tools like, for example, Salesforce or HubSpot or whatever. You can go and create a report, and I'm
Mm.
pretty sure if we do analysis, we have thousands of reports that run one time. That's it. Which it's a habit of it because we want to create something here. We want to do it like that. So, and that's like a problem that analysts usually have. Oh, let's do this kind of dashboard here. Let's do, but is anybody using the dashboard? Did you make it and like it's useful for have you checked with them if they have been using it? And is it creating the impact that you expect it to do? So you unravel that, oh, if I create this dashboard and apply this and this and this filter, you will see who is the account executive who is underperforming. Do the managers know about this and have they been using this
Right.
in order to do that?
Do they read it the same way? Their brains don't
Yeah.
necessarily work like yours. And I think that was a hard thing to learn in my career, and I try to impart early, is everybody's brains think a little bit differently. And if you have a really good analyst, they're great at pattern matching and they can spot things right away and they assume everybody else can. And that's just not how the world works. Once they understand you need a translation layer and that's why you're so valuable to the business, then they can kind of up level a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
So as you're thinking about scaling, do you have like a checklist in mind, or what kind of things would you warn people to not do or try to get them to do as they're scaling their team?
Definitely, I would say that after you hit a revenue operations department of 5 people, you need to start thinking about hierarchy inside the team. You need to start thinking about things like project management of the team. I will tell you that today in my team, I'm missing, like now that we're like 8 people, I'm missing this PMO function. And I don't know how I'm going to integrate this in the rest of the team, but I think this is the skill that I am missing right now. Somebody to handle all the different projects that we are doing. And I think the more that you scale, these are the kind of problems that you're going to get. So for me, the checklist is make sure that you are scaling all the departments or your teams in parallel. So you don't just hire admins that then the admins to do enablement. That always fail. But on the same time, try to figure out from the beginning what is the vision, the hierarchy that you would like to build in order to be able to support this kind of thing. And because whenever you are hiring somebody, you want this somebody to be in your team for a long time. That's the long-term plan. So you need to make sure that he's happy. Yes, of course, you need to pay him. You need to make sure that he's happy, but also you need to make sure that he has a career path, has a growth path. He's not overwhelmed by the work. And in order to do that, you need to spend time in people management. RevOps has the difficult part that we are a completely multidisciplinary team, and people don't understand that. I had to go back to, we have a very big people operations and talent team here in Superside because we are 800 people, but I had to go back to them in order to explain to them, no, look at my team. You cannot treat the same way my admins and my enablement. They are not the same people. And my enablement team are going to be outgoing. They're going to go to meetings. They're going to be talking about, they're going to be celebrating in Slack. They're going to be sending tacos or ice creams or whatever else. But my systems are introvert people that like, I'm an introvert as well. So like there are people that they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to participate in these kind of things. Make them participate in something like that is like something mandatory that they need to do that make them less. So you cannot treat them the same thing. And that's the problem of RevOps, that it's not the problem, for example, of data team, of DevOps team, of product team, of sales team. We are a team of multidisciplinary people, and that's a very difficult thing to handle from a people ops perspective. And that's why anybody that wants to scale revenue operations needs to make sure that there is a support from the company to do that.
Yeah. I can't emphasize enough how much time you will be spending one-on-one with your team trying to solve issues you never thought that you would be talking about at work. It's a lot, and don't underestimate how much time that's going to take. And also be super realistic. If I can give one piece of advice, be super realistic about how much time you have to give people as they ramp. So if you want to take a risk on somebody who you think could do really well in the role but doesn't have any experience, be really honest about whether or not you have time for them, because if you don't, that's a failure on your part, not theirs. It's really hard to get right.
We are not a unique team in the world, or like the first time that person is facing this kind of problems. There is like support from HR department in general about these things. I think like my problem is that all the documentation, all the support that I can get from my community, which is my RevOps community, doesn't face this kind of problems and don't know how to express this kind of problems. That's why I wanted to go ahead. You need to start thinking of what happens when you're going to scale RevOps, because I think this is not being talked enough. And I do believe in RevOps. I do believe that over the next years, we will see more RevOps professionals being hired in teams than sales people, especially now with all the new tools, with AI, with etc. I do believe that building bigger RevOps can increase the efficiency of your go-to-motion strategy than go-to-market strategy, than hire more sales reps just to do more things. So it is challenges that will come up very soon in the market.
Well, it sounds like we need to create a new sub-community in the RevOps co-op and stay connected, because I've definitely been there and can commiserate, and I know quite a few people who can. So let's get connected.
Would love that.
Andreas, thank you so much for being on the show. Where can people find you to network?
Everywhere. Like I participate in the RevOps co-op, I'm in LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to jump on a call always with anybody. And if anybody ever joins Greece, I'm more than happy to host them and take them out for a drink, or tell them where the best taverna in Athens is. I'm more than happy to give instructions or guidelines. So please visit Greece as well.
Thanks so much for tuning in to today's episode, everybody.
For more great content like this, join our community at RevOpsCoop.com and check out the links provided in the show notes.
Keep it RevOpsAF, y'all.